What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York, and on the phone we got Craig Mabbitt of Escape the Fate. Thank you so much for your time today, man.
Of course, man. What's going on?
Not much. You're performing This War Is Ours in its entirety. I just want to say that when I was in high school, I don't think I've gone a single day without the metal crowd playing at least Ashley or something on that record, so...
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's awesome to have you here. Being that this record is over a decade old now, do you have a different outlook on this record now as opposed to when you first put it out?
We kind of do. We were obviously way younger when this album was coming out. 10 years is a long time when, we were all 19, 20 years old when we were working on that record. And it's funny how we can almost relate to those songs a little more now than we related to them then, which is very bizarre. Me and Robert were talking about it. Some of the lyrics I was writing, although it might have seemed very vague at the time that I was writing them, they make more sense to me today than they did then, which is very weird.
That's incredible.
It's been awesome to play it every night. It's been cool to hear people's stories. It's been a little weird to have people tell me, I've loved you since I was 12. Can I buy you a drink? I'm like, no, don't tell me that. One, it makes me feel old. Two, my daughter's 12. I don't like hearing that.
Right?
But it's been filled with nostalgia and just all around good times. And, just that album in general is awesome to be out here, but also to share the road with Blessthefall, which, This War Is Ours was my first album not being with that group. Mm-hmm. And to share the road with them for this tour, it's just the icing on the nostalgia cake, so to speak.
Yeah, sorry if this is a bit of a trolly question, but is there a chance maybe on this tour you'll jump on stage and maybe sing Guys Like You Make Us Look Bad with them, or anything off that first Blessthefall record?
That is totally, the ball is totally in those guys' court with that one. They have not asked me yet. I don't know if it's because we're both trying to play a record front to back, and then also play some newer things for our fans, and I don't know if there's enough time to do it or what the issue is. But if they ask me, I'm up there, dude. I'll play whatever they want. I'll do the His Last Walk album if they want.
There you go. Play 3 albums front to back.
Exactly.
Yeah. One thing that I found unique with This War Is Ours is because I thought that this record had many different vibes as well as many different sounds. Like the title track, This War Is Ours. I've always said that's it might not be the best analogy, but I called it power metal for Warped Tour in a way.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
But then a song like Ashley, which has a completely different vibe. It's fair to say that during the making of this record, there was many different emotions going on and many different sources of inspiration, right?
Oh, absolutely. Many different sources of inspiration, a lot of different emotions. And then, touching on what I was just previously saying, just also comparing that to what are my fans going to think? What are the fans that really like my voice? They're going to follow me from Blessthefall to Escape the Fate. What are they going to think? Because obviously Bless was a little heavier, no guitar solos, more breakdown than there was solos, and I was coming into this, Las Vegas sort of motley crew for Warped Tour power metal scene, as you were saying. What are my fans going to think of this Ashley song? So it was very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But it released, and although it got a lot of weird reviews, obviously, from diehards that weren't expecting it, or people that were upset that I had left my band, or people that were upset that Escape lost their original singer. At the end of the day, it was a great success for us, and here we are celebrating almost 11 years now, but the 10-year tour through the U.S. and a few Canada dates.
Yeah.
So it's really taught me, if I'm doing a song that scares me, then that song should definitely be on the record.
Absolutely.
Usually the songs that are scaring me are the ones that people end up liking. And I've talked to plenty of people over the years, and they're like, This War Is Ours is Escape's heaviest album. Although I don't agree with that at all, because I feel like This War Is Ours, the track itself, not the album in its entirety. This War Is Ours is the only heavy track on that album, in my opinion. But a lot of people seem to think that's our heaviest record, so I don't know. Maybe I really don't know what the heck I'm talking about.
Well, maybe I agree with you. Put it to you this way. Ashley, that song, I heard somebody play that for their girlfriend at my junior prom in high school whose name was Ashley. So
Nice.
Yeah. What I find unique, kind of going back into the history of Escape the Fate, when you joined the band, were you looking at their previous record, Dying Is Your Latest Fashion, and kind of like saying, okay, this is what I need to do, or did the rest of the band kind of want you to bring your own mix, being that you did come from Blessthefall?
Well, the band, when I first, because in the beginning I was just supposed to be filling in for 3 shows, they were kind of left with no other options. And I had just departed from Bless, so they're like, hey man, can you come out and fill in for these shows? And I remember talking to the guys, and they thought that all I was, this screaming vocalist. And once they started rehearsing their songs from Dying and hearing me sing it, they're like, oh my god, dude, we want you in the band, and we want you to kind of do your own thing. And John Feldman was a huge part of that process as well, because he had come out to the Key Club to see the tour that was called Black on Black Tour, which was Escape the Fate, Blessthefall, Before Their Eyes, Dance Gavin Dance, and Love Hate Hero, which, funny enough,
Thrasher was in that band.
Love Hate, yeah, he's now in Escape, and Elliot from Blessthefall was actually playing with Before Their Eyes on that tour, and he's now with Bless, so it's kind of funny.
It all comes full circle.
Yeah, so Feldman comes to that show, and he goes, you know what, I really liked that Escape the Fate band's music, but I really liked that vocalist from Blessthefall. So as soon as he heard that vocalist he liked from that show joined that band he liked from that show, he was like, get in my studio right now. Mm-hmm. And we were in his studio the next month working on This War Is Ours.
There you go. That's a unique story. Like, holy crap, you should write a book on this album alone.
I know I should. And, right after this tour, funny enough, we're going back in the studio with Feldman to do album number 7, so I'm really excited about it, especially coming hot off this nostalgia of that album that we did with him 10 years ago. To finish a tour like this in the U.S. after we've already done it, UK, Europe, Australia, all that stuff, and to go back in the studio with him, it's just very exciting.
Yeah. One thing I want, because you mentioned Thrasher, and being that he was in Love Hate Hero, one thing I was unique is because I know that, you're playing with the current lineup. Do you try to maybe execute This War Is Ours exactly how people were hearing it back in 2008, or being that you have a couple of other members now with the lineup, maybe you try to execute it a little bit differently?
Yeah, I feel like we're executing it a little bit differently, and then on the other side of it, there's also tracks that we never even played live with the original lineup from This War Is Ours. So, it's kind of the first time people are hearing these songs live, period.
Yeah.
And it seems to be going over really, really well.
Interesting. Being that Thrasher was in Love Hate Hero, did him joining Escape the Fate even bring in newer elements?
It did bring in a little bit of newer elements. I think Thrasher has a little more swag, a little more attitude, which is very interesting. Me and him click really well when it comes to songwriting, which I enjoy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's great. I mean, another funny story from that tour is that Escape had lost a guitar player. Me and Thrasher were kind of homies on that tour, and he took me to the side and he said, hey man, they're asking me if I want to be in Escape the Fate. You think that's a good move? And then, it never happened, but then all of a sudden I ended up being in Escape, and then I hit him up, and now we're both in it. So it's like, it's so weird, man.
This is like, it's almost kind of like something it's like a Jerry Springer episode for a band.
It really is, it's...
Maybe not as dramatic, but...
Not as dramatic, but yeah, being in a band is definitely similar to being in any sort of relationship, and sometimes it takes a while to find the right people to make a relationship work.
Of course. You mentioned you're working on some new music now. Are you intending to make like a direct follow-up to I Am Human, or do you think that this new album is going to be a completely different era for Escape the Fate?
I think this new record, we're all on the same page with it. We really want to think outside of the box and do something that people haven't heard us do before, which I feel like we've always tried to do that. We've always tried to be diverse, but even in our attempt to be diverse, that itself has turned into sort of a formulaic thing for us that we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into, which is funny to say, but it's like, we ended up going into albums going, all right, we want to be different, but it turned into a formula of, okay, here's the heavy songs, here's the different songs, here's the poppy songs, here's the ballad song, cool. The album sounds, all these songs are different, cool, let's put it out. Now we want to think a little more outside of the box than that. and do something fresh, something new that either people are gonna fall in love with or people are gonna hate our guts for. But hey, you know, you gotta roll the dice.
Of course. Being a vocalist, do you need to hear music in order to come up with lyrics, or is there ever a time where you have like a story in mind or a concept and maybe that could help determine the outcome of the music?
I write every which way possible. I Am Human, funny enough, is the first time that I finished a song front to back that was just a voice memo. It was just, you know, the melody in the verse, the melody in the chorus. And I sent it to Kevin. I was like, yo, I really like this. He's like, that's sick. So he built the music around it, and that turned into the title track, which is I Am Human. The first track on the album, Beautifully Tragic, started with the music, and I looked through, you know, my old notes of some lyrics I had laying around, and did this chorus that I had wrote without any music, had the melody for already, fit perfectly into that song. So that was easy. I'm like, oh, cool. Found the missing puzzle piece for this chorus I had sitting around. So it just depends. Sometimes we get together as a group and we just write something on the spot. You know, sometimes Kevin has something musically where I'll come up with a dope chorus, but the verses aren't really clicking. But we'll be singing the chorus and vibing with it. We're like, you know what? That one verse idea you have would work great with this chorus. And we kind of build it around that. So it's a fun process, man. I'm excited to jump back into that.
Of course. You ever worry that like you have like the perfect set of lyrics, but then they go like one or two syllables over like the actual arrangements?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that stuff always happens. So you have to teach yourself, especially as an artist or a lyricist and a vocalist. You have to learn not to get married to any ideas, and you have to learn not to be offended when someone doesn't like it. You know, it's very easy to lay your heart down on a piece of paper, and maybe even your whole band loves the idea, and you get in that vocal booth with the big time producer, and he hits record, and you sing it, and he's like, I like the delivery. Those lyrics could use some work, though. I'm not really digging that. And you're like, oh, man, I'm crushed. But, you know, at the end of the day, hopefully it just turns into something even better that you weren't expecting.
Do you like to leave your lyrics open to interpretation, or do you maybe try to engage the listener in like what you're singing about to maybe get them to see things from your point of view?
I do and I don't. You know, I've obviously coming from the music world as a fan, getting my ribs crushed in the front row watching my favorite bands. I feel like anytime I read an interview or an article where it was describing what the song was about for that person, it almost killed the vibe a little bit for me for the song. Because when you're listening to something music-wise, just as an individual, you almost interpret it in your own way while you're hearing it. So to hear somebody's personal story about this is what I wrote the song about, it kind of kills that imagination on your own of how you're connecting the song to something in your own life. So I've kind of tried straying away from explaining, you know, I wrote this song for this and this is what it's about, because I want everybody to listen to it and I want them to connect it to something in their own life.
Mm-hmm. Could somebody else's like perception of how your somebody else's interpretation of your music maybe change the outlook on what you had when you first wrote it?
Oh yeah, definitely. That always happens. Even if you know, even as simple as Kevin sending me a song and he just has a working title for it, every now and then that working title will inspire me to write a whole song about just these two words. And he's like, whoa, that's gnarly, dude. That was just a working title, but you really went for it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yep. It kind of worked out that way.
Yeah. One question I really want to ask you is because I mentioned like in high school, like on how, you know, like you were like one of the bands that every metal fan in high school listened to when I was like, it was like you guys and Blessthefall, and like a lot of those bands were like really what was in when I was in high school. When you hear on how people relate to your music and even helps them through hard times, how do you look at yourself as an artist a little bit differently, kind of like similar to the last question I had? But
I don't know if I look at myself as an artist differently, but it's definitely a humbling feeling, because it's crazy how fast music can change. You know, when people, still to this day, when I hear people going, oh man, that was the band that I was listening to high school, you know, everybody was listening to it, we used to listen to you on the way to school. I'm like, I started touring within the first year I had left high school, and when I was in high school, it was Under Oath and The Used and Taking Back Sunday and bands like that. So for me to be fresh out of high school, start touring a year later, and then, you know, all these new freshmen coming in after I had just left high school, now I'm that band. To them, it's like, no matter what I do from that point on, I kind of made it, in my opinion. You know, I never thought I would go from being the one in the front row at a used concert to being the person on stage with people in the front row listening to me while they're on their way home or on their way to school. So I'm like, damn, dude, I did it. You know, it's like, I did it, man, I made it. So
yeah, being an artist.
It's cool to hear that, because it's just a reminder, and you know, you're very humbled by that.
Yeah, being an artist is just as much of, like, I feel like a responsibility as it is, you know, like as an occupation.
Oh yeah, it's like in the very beginning, you're just doing it for yourself, and the sky's the limit. You don't really know what to expect. And when you get a fan base and people latch onto that, there's definitely a newfound pressure going in to work on new music, because you don't want to let those fans down. You know, and I feel like a lot of artists always end up chasing that first record. It's like, how do you spark that inspiration all over again? You know, how do you get back into the mindset of, I don't feel like I'm good enough, can I make it? You know, are people gonna like this? If you just put it out there with high hopes.
Yeah.
You know, I wish I could bottle that youth up and drink it every time before I went in to record a new song.
Yeah, it's really, I've always thought that, like, I always called it the hybrid theory effect, where you like, one of your first or second albums, like, are really touch so many fans, like, you don't want to let them down, so you're kind of afraid to experiment a little bit more, and, you know, you almost feel like you would let them down if you did, but you also don't want to repeat yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's always a tug of war.
There you go. And the final question I want to ask you is, I just asked Mikey from Islander this. It's my favorite question to ask, because it's always the hardest question for every artist to answer. How do you know when a song is done?
Ooh, I don't think you ever do. At least for me. Song's never really done for me. I'll still listen to songs I finished years ago. Like if I'm getting ready for a tour and we add a song to a set that, you know, I need to brush up on, and I'll start hearing harmonies or melodies or different things. I'm like, damn it, I should have done that. Like, I should have added that in there. Damn it. So a song's never really done, in my opinion, but you can end up taking forever on a song. So you got to reach a point where you go, all right, that's enough. I've done enough in this track. Let's move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you start overthinking, man, and it could really destroy the magic of what you originally had in the first place.
Yeah, you want to capture a moment with your songs, and I feel like that's what Escape the Fate's always been about.
Wow, thank you, man.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. It's going to be a kick-ass tour. Is there just anything else with Escape the Fate you would like to promote in terms of tours, or when can we be expecting this brand new Escape the Fate record? Maybe going into 2020?
Yeah, going into 2020, definitely a lot of new stuff that a lot of people haven't expected. You know, a huge thank you to our fans for sticking by us for so long. And, you know, hopefully cheers to another 10 years.
Absolutely. We look forward to hearing it. Well, thank you so much, Craig.
Thank you for your time, man.
Of course, thank you. Everybody, Craig of Escape the Fate. Be sure to check out their latest record, I Am Human. If you haven't already, they are performing This War Is Ours in its entirety. This is Alex from Hagen, New York. We'll see you next time.